and a very warm welcome to you all. It's the evening edition of Game On and I am Neha Bhardwaj-Alter. Will the fairy tale for Afghanistan continue? Do they have enough on board against Australia at the Wankhede Stadium? The other news, Shakib Al Hasan is out of the World Cup. We tell you why. And the Indian team have arrived in Bengaluru ahead of their final match of the league stage against Netherlands. Chetan Narula, Jamie Alter, both have joined us on the show. We'll start with the match, which can turn very interesting at this moment. 291 for 5. Jamie, it's game on. And Afghanistan will be very happy with the kind of flourish they got towards the end. Because at one point you felt like, okay, maybe they would not have enough on board. Unmute yourself, please.
I had it on mute because there were two little boys here driving me mad. Look, they've got to this score. This is a very, very good total. What it's going to do is it's going to give them the belief. You know, psychologically, when you get past 275, you know, something happens to these teams. And again, it just comes down to the conditions. Had this been a Lucknow or or a Chennai, this I would have said, look, Australia are going to lose this. But just because it's the Wankhede, yes, Australia look ragged on a day when they only managed 5 wickets. It says how off they were. It also says how far Afghanistan have come. You know, fantastic for him to get his. I think it's his second highest score for Zadran and the first Afghanistan batsman to get one in a World Cup. This is going to give them, 25-30% more confidence. So fantastic to see, but something tells me, like we discussed earlier, Australia should be able to get this.
Okay, Jamie, should we even ask Chetan about the jersey or should we just ignore and move on?
No, ask. I've not seen him wear this one yet, so I want to know the backstory.
I know. So let us know. Tell us, Chetan.
Well, this is similar to that India jersey, 92 special. It was a replica in 2015 World Cup. And I've had picked up, I wanted to pick up all 10 of them, but I picked up only 2 because, can't spend your entire money on shirts that you're just going to wear once or twice a year, really. So this is an Australia. I never had an Australia jersey. I don't really like the color yellow. So this is probably the first or the second time that I'm wearing this jersey.
Okay, I like the fact that you didn't want to wear an Australian jersey, not because you didn't like Australia as a team, but because you didn't like the color yellow. But looking at Afghanistan, and I think you need an Afghanistan jersey soon enough because of how well they've done. To have now a centurion in their team in a World Cup, how special is that? Just to think how they have gone, from place to place. Like it almost seems like every match you see them showing something more than what you think they're capable of.
It's really
about 250.
Yes, go ahead, Chetan. Right? Go ahead.
We discussed about how 250 would have been the power score for Afghanistan, given how Australia have been bowling throughout this tournament, especially after their first 2 games. They have picked themselves up. There has been steady transformation for Afghanistan in terms of their batting. Jonathan Trott, I think he has done a remarkable job. I think we have discussed this before as well, how he not just writing scores on a whiteboard when the game is going on. It's also about improving your batting ability in terms of how you're approaching targets, how you're batting together as pairs, how you're building partnerships. All of that, I think there has been a recognizable growth in Afghanistan batting throughout this tournament. I think after the game against England, when they decided to chase against New Zealand, I think that was the moment where it really began for Afghanistan. They're not with that game. They overemphasized or probably were overconfident in terms of their chasing ability. But since then, their growth has been really, really discernible in terms of a batting unit. And you're absolutely right. It's time to get an Afghanistan jersey. Usually I buy jerseys when I visit that country. I don't think I'm visiting Afghanistan anytime soon, but I will arrange for one.
Jamie, Ibrahim Zadran, he got an 80-odd against Pakistan and you felt that maybe he deserved 100 today. He got to it. How special is this for him and for the team?
Yeah, I mean,
this is very, very good because look, we know what a stats friendly audience most Asian countries are, but there's stats and then there's tally stats. I think tally stats are becoming more the norm for people to accept and to embrace. So it's very, very good. I think there were a series of 90s before this, but a first World Cup 100 from one of their most consistent batsmen. We've talked about their dependency and the results that the openers Gurbaz and Zadran have given. Gurbaz also had a couple of notable innings. Zadran's had a couple of noticeable innings. Rahmat Shah's got at least three, if I'm not mistaken, noticeable innings. So it was a matter of time before one of the openers really came good. And I think, we spoke before the match about the challenge of playing Australia in these conditions to keep the semi-final hopes alive. Maybe they haven't got enough to actually win the match, but it really will be a massive day for people watching this team because you can score hundreds against Pakistan, against Ireland, against any other team. When you get them against Australia, especially, and I'm sure India will also be top of that list, and the day's probably not too far when someone does get 100 against India outside the World Cup. So it's just a massive moment. I'm sure a lot of these players grew up watching Australian players. Maybe a lot of them wanted to be Australian players in the sense of the way Australian fast bowlers have, Australian batsmen have been. So it's just a massive moment. And again, I hope this spurs on other people to raise their game because we mentioned enough times the lack of maybe two viable middle order batsmen. And again, the middle order didn't really do well. Again, fits and starts. There was a 30, there was a 22. There was another 20 odd from the captain. Rashid Khan played really well. This might actually be because, sorry, we've not seen Rashid really do much with the ball. This could be the day against Australia. They've got a big total. Maybe he's enthused now that he's got some runs finally. It's been a rather quiet World Cup from him. So maybe we see him come up with something special to put Australia under pressure.
Okay, so what happened in the first innings? Having opted to bat, Afghanistan posted 291 for 5 by the end of the 50 overs in Mumbai, with opener Ibrahim Zadran becoming the first batter from the country to cross 17 in ODI against Australia and to make a century in a World Cup. The Australians were made to toil on a warm afternoon on which just 5 wickets fell as Zadran converted his promising start into his 5th ODI 100. The breakthrough was made by Josh Hazlewood when Rahmanullah Gurbaz pulled a short ball to deep square leg, ending an opening stand of 38. After which Rahmat Shah made 30 while adding 83 with Zadran. Glenn Maxwell and Mitchell Starc, they added wickets to their name to briefly slow the Afghanistan innings, but no one could stop Zadran from reaching the 3 figures. The landmark came off 131 deliveries, complete with 7 fours. His earlier centuries had come against Sri Lanka, Bangladesh and Zimbabwe. Azmatullah Omarzai, he hit 2 sixes and a 4 in his cameo of 22, which ended when he found long off attempting a 3rd 6, giving Adam Zampa his 20th wicket of the tournament. After reaching his century, Zadran struck Zampa for his first 6 to start the acceleration, and another maximum came as he flicked Starc over deep square leg. A cameo, and this could turn out to be key for Afghanistan. A cameo of 35 of 18 balls from Rashid Khan raised 250 in the 47th over, and he swatted 2 more sixes off Starc in the final over to help Afghanistan post their highest total in any World Cup, in the process raising a 50-run stand with Zadran. Given the conditions and what we can expect from the second innings, Chetan, how important could this late flourish be for Afghanistan, especially if they were to get early wickets in the second innings? I mean, that 35 of 18 from Rashid Khan, because at one point you just felt they were going under 5 and over on that kind of a pitch. You felt that wasn't going to be enough.
Absolutely. I mean, when I saw Rashid Khan hitting those runs, the one thing I was wondering was, this is not an Afghanistan team that you would want to give momentum to, right? Whenever such a knock happens, the momentum suddenly shifts. Afghanistan, like you mentioned, going with less than 5 and over, and then suddenly you have those 35, 40 runs. The momentum shifts, and Australia were clearly bowling towards a specific target in mind that, okay, you know what, we need to control the last 5 overs. They were controlling throughout, but they had it in mind perhaps that we need to control the last 5 to 10 overs and restrict them to around 250, 260. And they were going very well with that. But then whenever you have an innings like this, the momentum just pushes on to the other side. And to my mind, this Afghanistan side, you do not want to be giving them that kind of momentum. The other bit is with the score itself. 250, you're suddenly 2 down for 50 runs. 250 becomes 280. You still think, okay, you know what? It's manageable. We can get those runs. It's not that big a deal. But now you're chasing 280 and suddenly you're 2 down for 30, 40 odd. 280 becomes 300. And on that pitch, is 300 defendable? I think so, given the kind of slowness we've seen on the surface. I wasn't really happy with the way Mitchell Starc has bowled on this particular day. For me, he has that kind of tendency to really go off the boil when conditions are just that extra hard. And today, those conditions were a little extra hard in this. This has been a long tournament as well. Really dry pitch, not really much there for the Pacers. So I think not really happy with the way Mitchell Starc started or bowled throughout the innings for that matter, particularly. So I think Australia will be disappointed at having given away those extra 40 runs.
Which is the other thing, Jamie, which we've seen with this Australian side. The bowlers have, especially in the start of the tournament, weren't doing as well, came back better. But you haven't seen the consistency one expects from this Australian pace attack. Their main bowler, excuse me, has been Adam Zampa, who's in that top wicket takers list in the top 3, and he has been in those positions for a while now. The difference that Adam Zampa has made, I'm wondering if he wasn't bowling as well, this team would be nowhere close to what it is right now.
No, that's absolutely 100% correct. This has not been, it's not been a very Australian type of World Cup in the sense that they've bounced back from 2 losses. They've got now five wins in a row. But barring Zampa, no one, I don't know the stats off the top of my head, but probably the 3 fast bowlers have not gone beyond 10 wickets. I don't know. I'm just going to wager that they haven't. It's been Adam Zampa. I know he's taken 20 wickets. Today was his 20th wicket. Excuse me. It's just not been that kind of fearsome Australian performance in terms of the bowling. Even the batting has been David Warner and then somebody else. One match, Mitchell Starc. One match, Travis Head. He got 100 in his comeback match. Stephen Smith has not done too much. Labuschagne's got a couple good knocks. So yes, Australia are in the top 3. They're definitely going to the semi-finals, but they're not the dominant Australian teams that a generation or two of fans, whether Australian supporters or not, would have been used to watching. And Chetan is right, but not just Mitchell Starc. I'm going to say Pat Cummins has not done much with the ball, barring that match against Sri Lanka when he swung things back. I believe he got a catch. Hazelwood has chipped in here and there. Where is that dominant? We've been talking about that Trent Bolt spell.
Yeah.
Fair enough. He's off the boil. Where is that Australian fast bowler imprint on these last 7 matches? I haven't seen that. It has been entirely Zampa. So if a couple early wickets fall, you're going to see the pressure building up on a middle order that's really not firing. So I think this match will be decided on the openers.
Yeah.
Maybe Mitchell Marsh. I personally don't have much hope from Labuschagne, Marcus Stoinis and Josh English. David Warner, Travis Head on this wicket, it's down to them. And like Chetan said, 50, 60 odd for 2. And if those 2 happen to be those 2, then I'm saying Australia are gone for all money.
I was just looking at the top wicket takers, Chetan, and so Adam Zampa is at number 2 with 20 wickets. Dilshan Madhushanka, and hats off to him and how well he is bowled for Sri Lanka. He's at 21. The next best Australian bowler is in number 14 position, which is Josh Hazlewood with 12 wickets. That's the difference that we've seen in this side and the difference between Adam Zampa and the others. Before I come to you and the importance of Adam Zampa, this is what Aaron Finch had to say about Adam Zampa. He said, Zampa has been probably the premier white ball spinner for a couple of years across the 2 white ball formats around the world. So this is really good recognition of the skill of his craft that has shown through in his unbelievable consistency. What stands out for me is how well he is reading the batters. With spin, half the battle is knowing when to bowl your variations based on reading the batters and the conditions. He is bowling so beautifully at the moment, and he's taken so many crucial wickets. The other thing being that in Indian conditions, to have Adam Zampa as the top spinner of the tournament, that also just goes on to show how good he's been.
Well, he's always enjoyed bowling in India. He was one of the bowlers for me to watch out for in this particular tournament. I've been saying that even before the tournament began. Adam Zampa is the spinner to watch out for. I have been really surprised that on occasion he's not been picked by IPL teams. It doesn't make sense to me. I mean, there was this one time couple of years back when Mumbai Indians actually needed a spinner when they redid their entire team, and Adam Zampa was available and they did not bring him in. Probably their overseas quota was over. But again, I was really surprised that he wasn't picked for the IPL that particular year. Anyway, so he is somebody who's always enjoyed, as far back as 2019, he's somebody who's always enjoyed Indian conditions. So I'm not really surprised that he's done so well. I think yesterday we had discussed, and I had pointed out, where you look at the top 5 bowlers, it's Zampa who's leading the way. That was still yesterday or day before yesterday. He was leading the pack, and then you had 4 fast bowlers. So it just kind of defined how he had stood out in this particular World Cup, that he has been the main spinner across teams, where other teams have struggled, say South Africa or England or any other team apart from India have struggled on these pitches. I'm talking especially about spinners. Zampa has been rampant in that particular sense. So it's been that kind of World Cup for Australia where their spinner is leading the way and the others are, just providing a support role. They've picked up 10 wickets each. I think Hazelwood has picked 12 now. He's taken 2 in this game. So they've all been 10 plus, but it's not been an exceptional World Cup for them.
Yeah.
And you can understand this from the perspective of the first 2 games, which weren't really going great guns for the Australians. So from that perspective alone, I think they've done decently well. And as long as they continue performing as a unit, it's okay. They don't need exceptional performances. Who really has had exceptional performances apart from the Indian bowling attack? I can't really remember off the top of my head. Madhushanka, but again, just the one bowler from Sri Lanka. Where are the other Sri Lanka bowlers? So it's just been like that. For all the other teams, you've had one bowler who's done really well and the others are lagging behind. So it's no different for Australia, except it's a spinner who's shown them the way. Apart from India, I don't think there's been any team which has had 3 or 4 bowlers doing exceptionally well or all of them doing brilliantly well. So it's par for the course.
Actually, no, South Africa do have that. South Africa do have that. They have, Marco Jansen, he's in top 3. Then there is, in the 9th position is Gerald Kutsia, and then there's Keshav Maharaj, Kagiso Rabada in 12 and 13. But yeah, I get the point where you're saying that other than these 2 teams, all others collectively have struggled. Yeah, okay.
So if you compare South Africa and Australia, their first 2 games were brilliant. They played Sri Lanka and then they routed Australia. So it's just those first 2 games that have not given that kind of result to Australia, which is why perhaps they're lacking. But again, my point stands, if they're performing as a unit, which I don't think they did quite today, I still do think that Afghanistan scored 40 more runs than they should have. And I just hope it doesn't come to bite Australia.
Afghanistan's batting, Jamie, as we've seen now in the last 2 to 3 matches, the difference in their approach in terms of how they don't get swayed by, leave alone the occasion. You don't see collapses. You haven't seen collapses, especially in the last few games. I remember the match that they played against India and the one before that. Clearly, they were coming to terms with adapting to this ODI format, and which was expected of Afghanistan, because you said that, this is different. T20 is very different from ODIs. You need to build partnerships. You need to play the situation. What they've been doing now is that they are playing to that situation. Today is another example of that. At no point could you see a collapse, which is also brilliant by them.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the only 2 collapses happened to be their first match when they, if I'm not mistaken, I think I mentioned it once, they were 83 for 1, I believe. And then they were bowled out around the 150 odd mark. I'm not exactly sure of the total, but it was not much beyond 150 against Bangladesh, a match which they will end up ruining if they don't get to the semifinals. And then the match against New Zealand, when, as we discussed, overconfidence got the better of them. They put them into bed. I think there was a collapse there. Baki, they didn't collapse against England. That, like Chetan said, the England match was a turning point for England as well, but also for Afghanistan. And they've not collapsed in any other match since then. So hat off to them. They've got a fantastic total. The chase has just gotten underway. Very, very keen to see under lights. I know we've talked about the four spinners, but we also got to talk about, they do have two pace options. One is an outright pace bowler. The second one is more of a medium pacer, Omar Zai. And I'm, like Chetan mentioned, I'm more keen to see how those two guys do against this Australian team. We know the spinners will end up getting the maximum wickets. I don't know how many, and they'll bowl the most overs. That's standard when you pick four spinners. But keep an eye on those two pacers. Let's see what happens there.
Chetan, what are you expecting now in the second innings, bowling under the lights for Afghanistan? You said that it was going to help them, not their spinners, but their pacers. What are you expecting from them?
No, I said the two games that they have been helpful to the pacers. Today, the pitch is very, very different from those two pitches. I'll be very honest.
Okay.
It's a little on the drier side. It's actually drier than the India-Sri Lanka game, and it's definitely drier than the South Africa-England game. South Africa-England game, obviously, the conditions were really dry as well. The breeze had completely dried out because of the cyclone in the Arabian Sea. At least on the India game, there was a perfect breeze. It was blowing right to left from where I was sitting in terms of the media box, and it was perfect for Shami's outswinger that day. So I don't know about the wind condition in Mumbai today, but it's definitely a drier surface. Two quick wickets, and Australia will be under some kind of pressure. 280 will look like 300. Like Jamie said, it's all about the start. But the good part for Australia is that their three best batsmen are in the top three. So if you have to look at David Warner, Travis Head, and Mitchell Marsh, these are the guys who are going to get you the majority of the runs in this particular innings, and they are batting in the top three. So I think while the ball is hard, I think they will enjoy batting in these conditions. So it just depends on how Afghanistan use their spinners and at what particular time.
You know what? I'm going to wait for the predictions till the end of the show so that we can get a sense of what Australia do. But they've just lost their first wicket. As I say this, Cricinfo have just updated this where Travis Head, Naveen ul Haq, bowling Travis Head. So for Duck, Travis Head is gone. But let's also quickly talk about some of the other news stories of the day. Let's move on to this. He can't seem to remain out of news after being involved in a controversial timed out incident last night against Sri Lanka. Bangladesh captain Shakib Al Hasan will not be able to play the final game for Bangladesh. He's been ruled out of the tournament after he fractured his index finger during his innings of 82 against Sri Lanka. He underwent an emergency X-ray in Delhi after the game, which confirmed the fracture on the left PIP joint. This is what his physio has said. He says the recovery is estimated at 3 to 4 weeks. He will leave for Bangladesh today to begin his rehab. So that's the news. He just can't seem to be out of the news. 24 hours of absolute drama since that match got over. Now, Shakib has been condemned by many for that timed out appeal, which saw Angelo Mathews being given out, even for not being ready to face the bowlers in stipulated 2 minutes, which he claims was because of equipment malfunction. This has left the cricketing world divided. We did a show on this. In fact, we've done 2 shows now on this particular topic. And now Shakib, he'll not take any further part in the tournament. He'll go back for rehab. Anam ul Haq, he's been named as his replacement in the squad, while vice-captain Najmul Hussain Shanto will lead Bangladesh in Shakib's absence. Now, because we've discussed this whole controversial timed out decision for so long, we didn't talk about Shakib's batting, and he says it egged him on. It sort of, made him want to score more runs, and it was a match-winning effort by Shakib Al Hasan yesterday. To think that he was actually playing with that fractured finger. So he taped it and taken some painkillers, Jamie. He did want to win the match, and it was war out there for him, apparently.
Yeah, the war line like discussed, that doesn't sit well with, I don't think, any of us. But look, Shakib, we discussed, he's here to play cricket. That whole visit back to his personal coach has actually helped him because he's come back and scored a few runs. He got 2 wickets. He scored 89. I think that's the highest score. So he's done his job as far as he's concerned. Whether Bangladesh remain in the top 8 because they only have one match left remains to be seen. England have 2. If England win 2 out of 2, they will displace Bangladesh, and then Bangladesh will really struggle to get qualification for the Champions Trophy. So as far again, you have to differentiate Shakib Al Hasan, the all-rounder, the performer, versus Shakib Al Hasan, the captain, the tactician, and somewhat the arrogant brat, if I can use that word on the show. But again, it's always a loss when a player like him goes. So I think their final match is against Australia. If Australia lose today, they're going to come out even harder against Bangladesh. So it's again, Shakib's absence is not a massive deal because Bangladesh are already out of the World Cup before yesterday's match. They probably won't stay in top 8, like I've said, and there's one match left. So let's move on from Shakib.
No, we're going to stick on for just a bit onto this topic of Shakib. Why? Because it's interesting. To think, Chetan, that he has been such a good player for Bangladesh. And then to have his legacy tarnished by so many incidents. And somehow they've all come back, right? They're all now in front of us. We've been reading about them, him breaking stumps, fighting with umpires, arguing with umpires, him being banned for a year for failing to report a suspicious approach in 2019. I feel like for someone who has actually been a great cricketer, that legacy stands tarnished at the moment. And it's really sad to see something like that happen to who's been a very good cricketer, right?
True, but I don't think he cares.
Yeah.
He doesn't care.
Clearly.
He doesn't care. He is a superstar in Bangladesh cricket, and he is a superstar of the game. And he will go away from the game with that bit intact. He will go from the game or retire from the game when the day comes. I'm assuming this is the last time we're seeing him in an ODI World Cup. So when he does, he will retire as the foremost cricketer from Bangladesh. And unless and until they replicate another Shakib Al Hasan, he will remain their greatest cricketer ever. I mean, he's not only just a batsman, he's also a bowler, like Jamie mentioned the other day, and which is a fact that he was the number 1 ICC all-rounder across all 3 formats.
And for a while.
And not just Bangladesh. I don't think there's any other cricketing nation. I don't think India has been able to produce an all-rounder like that since Kapil Dev. All due respect to Hardik Pandya, he's not in that category. So yeah, he is a star cricketer. He will forever stay a star cricketer. And the fact that he doesn't really care tells you everything about him. These antics happened because he doesn't care. Simple as that. And nothing he's done in terms of those antics will take away from the fact that his cricketing achievements have been remarkable. They've been splendid. And when that happens, Meha, when the cricketer doesn't really care how you're going to perceive him, I think after that, it doesn't really matter. So, yeah, Shakib, in a way, yes, again, I'll say that. Nobody agrees with what he really did, but it's done now. And the smile on his face just said everything. He didn't really care.
Yeah, he didn't. And he said, I didn't care about whether it was right or wrong, which to me says a lot about how he looks at these things, how he approaches cricket and probably life. But what this has also done is that it has made it very difficult for everybody else to like this Bangladesh team. Already we've seen all the Nagin, dance and all of that. What this has done is that now it's made it even more difficult to actually like this team. But again, I don't think they care. Yes, Chetan.
Even Bangladesh fans don't like their team at present. Some of the shots that we saw from Eden Gardens, they don't like their team at present. The kind of losing run they are on at this point in time.
Okay, let's talk about the Indian team then. The Indian cricket team has arrived in Bengaluru ahead of their final league match against Netherlands that will be played on Diwali on Sunday. Though Virat Kohli, he travelled to Bengaluru solo and he was seen arriving separately, but this team reaching the hotel in Bengaluru for that Sunday match. They've already now qualified for the semi-finals. This India versus Netherlands match. What will be interesting to see is how this team will be approaching that last game. Will we see any changes? Will we see some of the players being rested, especially bowlers like Jasprit Bumrah? will he be given this off during this match? What is also for everyone to see is that India have a long gap now. They're playing next on Sunday, so these players are going to get some rest. Today there was a rest day, in fact 2 days. There have been optional training session, that's what they've said. What is also what one can expect is that can Team India get in the local boy, Prasidh Krishna, or who else can come in? That'll be interesting to watch. Will they rest Jasprit Bumrah? That's something we'll have to wait and watch. But yes, they've got a 6-day break. So the team will enjoy 2 days optional break in Bengaluru. Remember, most of their training sessions in this World Cup have been optional because they've been traveling to various parts of the country. But what we've seen is that this is a happy team, is a happy, confident team that has won every match so far that they've played. And now just the last game is left. This Indian team has already qualified for the semi-final. So let's go across to Chetan and Jamie and ask them, do you see any changes? I know that whenever Rahul Dravid or Rohit Sharma, they've been asked this question, are you going to rotate players? Are you going to give anybody rest? They say no. But now, for the last game against Netherlands, do you see somebody getting rest?
Should I go first?
Yeah.
Ideally, I don't think so, because you've had a 6-day rest, and then again, depending on where you're playing in Mumbai or playing in Calcutta, you still get a couple of days rest between games. So it doesn't really matter from that perspective whether they play the same team. I think they'll play the same team. They'll keep that momentum going. And in a tournament like this, you want to keep that tournament momentum going. So I don't see any changes. However, the off chance, there is something surprising happening in the semi-final lineup. Let's say Pakistan come in and India has to go to Kolkata, and the pitch there we saw against South Africa, what kind of pitch there was. In that off chance, maybe they'll say, okay, because this is the last league game. India-Netherlands is the last league game. We'll already know the semi-final lineup by then.
Yeah.
So just on the basis of that, maybe one change, maybe, especially if it's India, Pakistan and Kolkata, I think they will think of playing Ashwin again and say, okay, you know what, let's see, with the Eden Gardens pitch in mind, they'll say, okay, you know what, if he is going to play then we, need to give him a game accordingly.
Jamie, do you agree?
Yeah, I mean, there's merit. I would also lean towards the no change combination, just because of A, momentum, and B, like we we're just discussing, a 6-day gap. That's a long time in a World Cup. This is the second time this Indian team has got a 6-day gap between matches. And let's hope that, they do manage to switch off, get a break, and do whatever is required to come back. Because yes, they've qualified. Yes, they're not going to fall below the #1 ranking heading into the semi-finals. Yes, it's Diwali day. It's a festive day. They're playing Netherlands. But I don't see this team making any changes. And if there is one, it's not going to be Shardul. They've definitely moved past Shardul. Ishan Kishan is not going to play because the only rival he has is Sky. And between the two, Sky is going to be your number 6. So, yeah, maybe if it is actually Eden Gardens, Ashwin. But I'm just going to go with no changes, given all that this team has achieved, especially since Hardik Pandya. They were probably very concerned when Hardik Pandya was ruled out. But since his absence has not really mattered, I'm guessing they're going to say, nahi, jo chal raha hai, chalne do.
Okay, now on to another interesting one. You remember what we'd done with Hassan Raza? There's somebody else. Former Pakistan captain Mohammad Hafiz. He's criticized Virat Kohli for batting slowly and playing for his individual milestones after India's comfortable 243-run win over South Africa at the Eden Gardens. Virat Kohli, he celebrated his 35th birthday in style as he hit his 49th ODI 100 to equal the legendary Sachin Tendulkar's record of maximum hundreds in one-day international. So Kohli scored 101 not out of 121 balls which of course made the world erupt in joy. But there were a few Pakistani cricketers, former cricketers, who weren't happy, one being Mohammad Hafiz. What does he say now? He says that Kohli was selfish. He says, I saw a sense of selfishness in Virat Kohli's batting, and this happened for the third time in this World Cup. In the 49th over, he was looking to take a single to reach his own 100, and he didn't put the team first. Rohit Sharma could have played selfish cricket too, but he didn't, because he's playing for Team India and not for himself. Let's get reactions from both Jamie and Chetan, and this is going to be slightly interesting because they might just agree with Mohammad Hafiz. Jamie?
Has Mohammad Hafiz been watching our shows?
Looks like it.
I think across platforms, barring Chetan and I, from what I've seen, very few people are ready to take this up. Look, when Chetan and I call something, we're not doing it for views. I think Mohammad Hafiz has probably realized that given his audience and given what views for that channel can do, he's saying it. Because if he's not said it before, and let's face it, this is the fourth time he had an opportunity to say it, I don't think he's been thinking along our lines. But sahi to keh raha hai na, Chetan?
I don't think that he said anything that's not correct. I think this has happened for the fourth time, yes.
Yeah.
And
he's go ahead. Yeah. Please answer. Yeah.
And Rohit Sharma has been batting selflessly. And let's bring in the fact that there's been team orders here. That the team has decided, or the team management has decided, that Rohit will go hard. And knowing Rohit, he himself wants to go hard at the top. And then obviously they told Virat Kohli to bat deep against South Africa, which is also very fine. But do you really bat that deep in the 49th over, 47th over? And again, it just forget all of that, because we've repeated that so many times. So I just want to come back to Rohit Sharma. When he said that I want to be in that form or mindset of the 2019 World Cup. In the 2019 World Cup, he was not going this hard in the beginning because the conditions were very different. English conditions, you can't go hard. But he is in that complete mindset where he's playing for the team, where he's playing with that one goal. What is the most beneficial thing for the team? That to me is the mindset of 2019, not in terms of the runs he scored, not in terms of how he's batting, because these are different conditions than England. His mindset is what is best for the team. And the best for the team is, he's also said it, when the ball is hard and he's on song, he's got a start, he's going to go hard at the ball. Somebody asked me that day, why is it selfless cricket when he's getting out for 40 runs instead of playing a longer innings and helping the team score 300? Boss, cricket is not for you. Stop watching cricket. If he hadn't given you that start, India wouldn't have got 300 on that pitch. It was because of his start that Shreyas Iyer and Virat Kohli could bat the way they did in the middle overs, take up those extra deliveries, because he scored 40 of 20 balls, gave you that start. Yeah. India was scoring at 10 an over in the first 6 overs. So from that perspective, Rohit could easily have batted for his hundreds against Pakistan. He could have batted against Afghanistan. He did get the 100. So there were a couple of, apart from Pakistan also, I think there was one. I think was that the Bangladesh game where he got a star and again got out. So he could have easily gone on to score a couple over hundreds there. And I think whatever Hafiz has said is absolutely bang on the money.
Yeah, and what he said, that's the next quote that I'm going to put up, which you guys will agree with, is also he's saying, I'm not saying Virat didn't play well. He batted beautifully till he reached 97. The last 3 singles he took, I'm talking about the intent. He was looking for singles instead of hitting boundaries. Who cares if he gets out on 97 or 99? Team should always be above than personal milestones, which I think Jamie's going to agree with as well. And also the fact about Rohit Sharma, where he's saying that he's the one who's been selfless. In another conversation where he's spoken about Rohit Sharma and how selfless Rohit Sharma has been, Jamie. But, let me put the other side. The other side is that if he's been told to bat deep, that's what he's doing. And also, if it ain't broke, why fix it? India is doing well with this kind of format. How does it matter? If, imagine, Virat Kohli had gone for a big shot and had gotten out, would you have got the same kind of intent from Ravindra Jadeja and Suryakumar Yadav in the game? They went for their shots because they knew Virat Kohli was holding one end.
Exactly. They went, and it just depends how you view that, right? we've discussed of the 4 times when he's failed to get to 100 or he's got one in that contrived manner, only once could the thing have turned bad. And again, it was a very, very minute chance because I believe 5 runs were needed when he got out on 95. But like we've discussed, what if Trent Bolt suddenly took a hat trick? Again, it's a minute chance. Barring that time, it's not had an impact on the match. It's not had an impact on India's standing. It's not had an impact on the net run rate. Does that justify it, though? I'm saying it does not, right? He is not the first batsman, as we've all said. He's not the last to slow down. But twice the contrived nature, once when he got there, second time when he failed, and then second time, I don't agree with the message. I don't agree with KL Rahul saying it was me. Tumne bol liya, maine maan liya. I don't buy that, and I don't buy the logic that the team has said go bat deep. I'm not going to repeat because Chetan has accurately described this, how deep is deep, right? I'm just saying, to my mind, and I know Chetan and I are in the minority, it just doesn't sit well. Will he do the same in a knockout match? I don't have a clear yes or no to offer, But as long as India keep winning, the majority of people are here to watch Virat Kohli. No one's going to have a problem, barring a few of us.
I'm okay with his approach in this game. In the last game, they played against South Africa. My problem was in the way he was, not taking singles so that he could get to his 100. This to contrive to get to 100. That's my problem because as Jamie also said, Chetan, 1 second. We've seen batters in the past slow down for their milestone, and anybody who says that, listen, nobody plays for the milestone, they play for their team. Any batter who says it, I think he's lying. At times they do play for the team. Most of the times they play for the team. But if a milestone's coming along, they want to get that as well. So I don't know what seems to be the problem here. Why is it wrong? Because others can just say that, listen, boss, had he gotten out playing a big shot, then things could have been different.
Look, all credit to Virat Kohli. He's got those hundreds. India hasn't had a problem. I think we've talked about this enough. I don't want to go around in circles explaining why, etc., etc., etc. What I'll just say is why it doesn't sit right with me personally is because of the 4th time this has happened, and then not just Virat Kohli, it also involves KL Rahul, it also involves Ravindra Jadeja. In fact, it involves the entire Indian team in those particular situations throughout this particular tournament. To me, it says he is bigger than the game, which is just not how you're supposed to play. You're saying one person's individual milestones matter so much that you're contriving to give him that particular chance. To me, that doesn't sit right. As long as he may get 10 hundreds in this tournament, if he gets them playing in the natural way, without any contriving, without anybody refusing singles and everything, great, absolutely great. I don't really care. Right now, this message is coming across that Virat Kohli's hundreds are great for the game. It's bigger than the game. It's just giving out that message, and that to me is very, very uncomfortable. I've loved cricket all my life, and that just doesn't sit right with me.
Watching it's a slippery slope.
Absorbing that, and I'm okay with people saying that, okay, the last game was fine, this and that, but now you just look at from what has happened since Chennai. Whether it's KL Rahul scoring a boundary and then saying, okay, I wanted to get to 100. That's where it started, really. He wanted to get 100. He wanted to score a 4, and then he tried to hit a 6 and all that jazz. No, this doesn't sit right with me, this personal milestone thing. And then with Virat Kohli, it's just become bigger because KL Rahul is KL Rahul and Virat Kohli is Virat Kohli. Suddenly it became all about the hundreds. And to me, I tweeted it that day. I have no issues against it, and I have no issues against Virat Kohli. I really love him as a batsman, respect him. But I just hope, because the game, cricket, sport, karma, life, it has a weird way of equalizing these things. Very weird way of balancing these things. So as long as India is winning, that's great. I just hope something untoward doesn't happen.
Yeah, I think it also sends a message to some of the younger players in the team, the Shubman Gills, the Shreyas Iyers. What do they take from moments like this? But guys, getting out of time, predictions before we wrap this up, Chetan. So 5 overs down, 6th over, 37 for 1. See, I gave you the benefit of knowing 5 overs what the score was. So
I like both teams, so whatever I say is going to go opposite, right? But I still think it's going to be a close chase, but Australia will win.
Okay, Jamie?
Mitchell Marsh has just hit a 6 and Chetan started talking. So it's 43 for 1 now. Again, very, very close, but I will stick with my prediction. Australia have got this. Yes.
So it's an Afghanistan. It's an Afghanistan win then. Thank you so much.
There you go.
That's what I want. Chetan and Jamie for joining us here on the show. It's always a pleasure. That's it then. We're completely out of time. News 9 Live is what you need to subscribe to for all the latest from the world of sports. For now, goodbye. Thanks for watching.
He thought he could outlast us. And 1 year later, the evidence is right here in this room.
Who will blink first?
So far from preventing the expansion of NATO, Russian actions have actually resulted in the expansion of NATO.
It's a mess for Russia and it's a mess for the Western world, for NATO and the United States.
Putin is a dictator, and if he loses, that means the end of his regime, and probably of him personally. So he has to keep going.
Year 2, no end in sight. Streaming now. ChatGPT. It can generate codes and human-like responses through text, write stories, and do a lot more.
I work in a newsroom with anchors, researchers and scriptwriters, graphic artists, producers, video editors, camera crew. But does a newsroom really need them today?
All of us have to think about unique and distinctive value addition that cannot be automated or repeated or replaced by a machine.
ChatGPT may kill many companies. A human has to be in the loop with an ability to control this.
Dark Side of the Boom. Streaming now.
There are 22 Arab countries in the world, stretching across North Africa and the Middle East. This is a geographical swath from the Atlantic coast right up to the Arabian Sea. Now, it's the least democratic region in the world, and only 5 Arab countries have relations with Israel. Palestine has been a rallying cry for the Arab Street. Now, the Arab Street is an expression which denotes public opinion in the Arab world. Now, this public opinion at times is different from what their governments think. In recent years, the Arab Street has been muted because there were fewer incidents of violence between Israel and the Palestinians. This allowed Arab governments to talk peace with Israel.
Across the Arab Street, but across the Muslim world, all across the globe, there is growing sympathy for the Palestinian cause and for people in Gaza. That does not matter that what sect you come from, what country you come from. If it is a Muslim republic or the Arab Street, there is definitely empathy for the Palestinian people, even though there's been a terrorist attack. But there's a catch here. The Arab street is also in a catch-22 situation because of the Hamas terror attack, because of civilians becoming casualties, because of videos, testimonies and evidence is coming out in open of how 1,500 terrorists from Hamas conducted this terrorist attack in southern Israel, in which now more than 1,200 innocents have lost their lives, most of them civilians.
So when you look at the Arab street, I mean, their emotional connect with the Palestinian cause has not gone anywhere. It only remains as strong as ever. The problem that now arises is obviously you are going to have a polarization, and it's only to be expected that the large proportion of the Arab street is going to see Hamas as what they've always tried to see them, as those who are standing up to Palestinian, to Israeli terror. This is a self-resistance group. So in that sense, there will be a lot of sympathy for Hamas. But I believe that if the credence of what has come out, what has come to light, which is the absolute barbarism and savagery that has been committed in Israel by Hamas, this quite clearly puts Hamas on the back foot and the entire Palestinian cause on the back foot.
How will the Arab world really defend this? Of course, we've seen very sharp statements from Qatar as well as Saudi Arabia against Israel, not supporting or condemning this kind of a terrorist attack. At the same time, there has been statements from UAE and Turkey condemning the terrorist attack and saying that this is not the way ahead. Of course, we want peace, we want dialogue, and we want a just Palestinian state. But it would be difficult for these countries to defend such a gory and inhuman terrorist attack.
Hamas's horrific October 7th slaughter of thousands of Israeli civilians has pushed the Middle East into a cycle of violence. Israel is now at war. It won't stop until its civilians are rescued. Arab governments are wary. All of them are now backing the Palestinians, and none of them would want to be seen talking peace with Israel. Saudi Arabia's historic peace deal with Israel, for instance, is now on the back burner. With the war continuing, anger in the Arab world could boil over. It could well be the Arab basement that the Middle East will have to watch out for.
Members of the Indian community are taking on Hamas terrorists in Israel.
About 206 reservists have been called for duty.
But back in India, their own community members are facing a twin crisis. First, displaced by the ethnic clashes in Manipur,